Could your favourite character be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series? Well, in this video, I'm discussing how likely 10 plus major Star Wars characters are to appear in the series. So let's start off straight away with one of the least likely ones on this list, and that is Darth Maul. I've got him at a 2 out of 10 chance of appearing in the show. Now, this would have been much higher if we didn't recently get the news that he was initially in the script as the main villain, but was cut and replaced by Darth Vader. Obviously, there's a chance that they were lying when they said this to make it more of a surprise when Maul appears, but I do think it's obvious that Vader will be the main villain. But realistically, it's very hard to fit a Maul appearance into this series, which already seems pretty busy with characters, especially fitting in canon-wise, because Maul doesn't really know that Obi-Wan is alive when it comes to Rebels. But I've got it at a 2 out of 10 chance rather than a 0 because of a reason that I'm going to tell you about at the end of this video. So if you want to know how Maul could be in the series, stick around. The second one is going to be Cal Kestis at a 3 out of 10. Now, if the Jedi Fallen Order sequel is not about Cal Kestis, then this 3 quickly doubles up to a 6, but I think it will. Therefore, I don't think we'll be seeing Cal Kestis in live action until after that game, because the chances are that game is going to take place pretty close after the first one to further tell his story a bit before we eventually get him in live action, which I am very, very excited for. And another reason why is because I've got someone else, actually 2 other people, that would also do the exact same role that Cal Kestis has in this series. And one of those is Mace Windu at a 4 out of 10. If Mace is going to come back, it makes the most sense for it to be in the Kenobi series because he wouldn't be alive the whole original trilogy, and you don't have to explain where he is throughout that. All you got to do is explain literally how he survived. The role that Mace would play in this series would be a supporting Jedi to Obi-Wan, similar to what Cal would be, but I think if Mace were to appear, he would also die in the series, but I don't think Cal would. He's only a 4 out of 10 because, let's face it, as much as some of us want him to be alive, it's very, very unlikely for reasons that I've already mentioned, such as the series already being pretty busy character-wise, and the fact that Star Wars is getting a bit of stick recently for bringing back characters from the dead, i.e. Palpatine, Maul, Boba, etc, etc. But joint with Mace at a 4 out of 10 is Jabba the Hutt. Now, obviously, this series is set on Tatooine, and if it was a whole 6 episodes on Tatooine, Jabba would be a near guarantee. But it's not. We're probably only going to get 3 episodes just on Tatooine, if that. So therefore, Jabba the Hutt appearing is relatively unlikely, especially considering the nearest town to Obi-Wan is Mos Eisley, not Mos Espa, which is where Jabba actually rules. Now, it's still a possibility because in the comics, Jabba does mention how Obi-Wan caused a bit of trouble for him, and we do see this as water tax people come to collect water tax from like Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru from their moisture farm, and Obi-Wan sends them away. So Jabba sends Black Chrysanthemum, Obi-Wan fights Black Chrysanthemum and gives him the scar on his eye. That's just a very brief telling of that comic, but the point is Obi-Wan has caused trouble for Jabba before, so maybe we see Jabba, but I'm still not convinced. Now, speaking of Black Chrysanthemum, I've got him next at a 5 out of 10. Now, why do I think this? Well, 1, he has history with Obi-Wan. Secondly, he's likely to be on Tatooine at this point because he worked for Jabba so much. Thirdly, he just got introduced in live action in the Book of Boba Fett, so casual fans will know who he is. And also, that costume would have been very hard to make, so I imagine Disney want to use it as soon as possible, even if it is just a brief appearance. So Black Chrysanthemum, 5 out of 10. Now we're stepping up with some really big fan favorite characters. Commander Cody and Captain Rex both tied at a 5.5 out of 10 chance, in my opinion. Now, they would both serve very, very different roles. Obviously, Rex would be fighting with Obi-Wan and helping Obi-Wan. Cody would be fighting for the Empire and going against Obi-Wan. Cody is likely to be in the series because, number 1, we need his story kind of like fleshed out and ended because we don't really know what happens to him at this point. And number 2, it's very easy to create like an emotional scene with Cody. Like, imagine Obi-Wan watches Cody die. Yeah. Also, there's the chance for flashbacks, of course. That also applies for Rex. Rex could obviously be in flashbacks, but I think if Rex were to appear, it would be in real time. And I'm actually on board with the theory that we see him as that stormtrooper in the trailer. Rex also needs a bit more story for his character at this time. We don't know how he gets to where he is in the Bad Batch to where he is in Star Wars Rebels. And of course, we know that Tamora Morrison is more than happy to play any clone anytime he is asked, and I love him for that. So there's a pretty good chance we see a clone or maybe 2 in this series. Now, with a 6 out of 10 chance, I have another 2 characters, but this time they would be kind of playing the exact same role in the series. It's Hondo Ohnaka and Jar Jar Binks. Now, they are very different characters, but what I mean by them playing the same role is they would be there for the comic relief. You know, Hondo is a very, very funny character. Jar Jar is intended to be. Whether you find him funny or not, that's up to you. But they would be in this series to kind of lighten it up a bit, tell a couple jokes, cheer Obi-Wan up a little bit. It would be really nice to see like a really sad Obi-Wan be really welcoming to seeing Hondo and Jar Jar again because of how sad he is, despite them not exactly being his best friends in the past.
What's this?
Looks like your forces were destroyed, Jedi.
They're also pretty easy to chuck into this series, you know. Hondo is literally a space pirate, so any planet that Obi-Wan goes on, you can just say that Hondo was there. And I know that Jar Jar has a brief explanation of what he did after the prequels. I believe it's like a performing act in the streets of Naboo. But it wouldn't be that hard to explain how he got onto a different planet. You know, he's one of the clumsiest characters in Star Wars. Maybe he accidentally boarded some public transport and ended up on the same planet that Obi-Wan went to. Also, we had it confirmed that Kathleen Kennedy made the script a bit more lighthearted than it was originally, which yes, people aren't too happy with, but if that is the case, then a character like Hondo or Jar Jar appearing is a bit more likely because they're very light-hearted and would lift the mood from really dark and depressing to happy and funny. Now, I've got Yoda at a 6.5, and I know that a lot of you would want him much higher, but let me explain. Yoda did say that Qui-Gon would be the one to teach Obi-Wan how to become a Force ghost, but he did say that he would teach Obi-Wan how to communicate with Qui-Gon. So the way that I see it is that Yoda's going to teach Obi-Wan to talk to Qui-Gon, and then Qui-Gon is going to teach Obi-Wan how to become a Force ghost. So I can definitely see Yoda appearing in the series for that reason. We also know that he can do Force projection, as we do see it in Star Wars Rebels, which is a thing that Luke does in The Last Jedi. So there's an easy way for Yoda to commune with Obi-Wan without actually visiting him. However, there's obviously the chance that they don't show Yoda in this series teaching Obi-Wan how to commune with Qui-Gon, and they show it in a book or comic or something. But for me, I really want Yoda in the series. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Let me know what you think about Yoda appearing. Now, with a 7 out of 10 chance, I have a very large combined amount of characters. I've got Ahsoka, Ventress, Grievous, Satine, basically anyone that mainly featured in the Clone Wars for the purpose of them being in Clone Wars flashbacks. Each of those characters has a different way that they could appear in a flashback, but the point is that Obi-Wan is very likely to have Clone Wars flashbacks, and the chances are at least one of those will appear in at least one of those flashbacks. Now, for example, Satine would be a flashback to probably her death to show how traumatized Obi-Wan is, how sad he is, and everything like that. Ahsoka could have a similar purpose because despite most of her experiences with Obi-Wan being positive, he doesn't know if she's alive or not, and maybe he's worried about that. And then as for Ventress and Grievous, obviously they fought Obi-Wan many times, so that would just be any other flashback. There's also a small chance that Ahsoka appears in real time, but I don't think that's going to happen. Now, Quinlan Vos is the other character that I said could fill Cal Kestis' role, because he's another supporting Jedi to Obi-Wan. However, like Mace Windu, I feel like if Quinlan Vos was to appear, I think he would die. And who would kill him? Well, I think he's definitely stronger than all the Inquisitors, so it would be Vader. Now, I know that we know how powerful Vader is, like, everyone knows that, even the most casual fans. But in terms of improving the story just contained within the series, having a powerful character killed by, like, the main villain does help to show how strong this villain is, despite everyone already knowing it. It just makes the story better. Quinlan Vos is a relatively important character in Star Wars. You know, he appears in the Clone Wars a couple times. He's actually in the Phantom Menace. Not many people know that. And he has a decent role in some of the books. Funnily enough, this one right here that I bought a while ago but didn't read yet. I need to get around to doing that. So what I'm saying is, people want to see his story fleshed out. So a great way to do this would be in one of the biggest Star Wars projects that is currently announced to happen. Oh yeah, by the way, Quinlan Vos was a 7.5 out of 10. Forgot to mention it. Now at an 8 out of 10 is Bail Organa and Leia Organa, and these wouldn't be anywhere near as high as they are if it wasn't strongly rumoured that they are going to be appearing in this series. Now, I do understand that it makes sense how they can appear. They have very prominent roles in the rebellion, and maybe we see Bail Organa desperately trying to convince Obi-Wan to actually join the fight against the Empire, because at this point in the timeline, the rebellion is very weak, and that would be pretty cool to see. Leia, obviously being the other child of Anakin Skywalker, could also add to the reason why Obi-Wan has to go off-world if she gets in danger or anything like that, so you can understand why they're pretty likely to be in the series. But if we didn't hear any rumours at all, I definitely wouldn't have them at an 8 out of 10. So I guess we just have to see if the rumours are correct, and if they are, I think those will be the ways that those two characters appear. And now with the highest score on this list, a 9 out of 10 chance of appearing in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is Qui-Gon Jinn. I've already mentioned him, I've already briefly explained how he can show up, but I've got more to say. Qui-Gon is the old master of Obi-Wan. We need to see him and Obi-Wan have a conversation about Anakin Skywalker. Qui-Gon is the main reason why Obi-Wan actually trained Anakin, and obviously that didn't go too well as Anakin has turned into Darth Vader, so I need to see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan talk about this. Does Qui-Gon still believe that Anakin is the chosen one? Does Obi-Wan still believe Anakin is the chosen one at this point? Because we know in Rebels, he thinks it's Luke rather than Anakin. Does Obi-Wan regret training Anakin? Does Obi-Wan blame Qui-Gon at all, or does he just blame himself? Does Qui-Gon blame himself? Does Qui-Gon blame Obi-Wan? I need the answers. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that Qui-Gon is the one that supposedly trains Obi-Wan. And of course, Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn's actor, has stated many times he'd be more than happy to return to play the character of Qui-Gon. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could Darth Maul potentially appear in this series? How is he still a 2 out of 10 despite us being told that he won't be in this series? Well, I've actually got a whole video on it. So check that out if you like Darth Maul and you want to know how he could appear in the series.